So what is a wrapper class? So wrapper classes are actually one of the easiest concepts we're going to deal with. Okay. So public static void main. So to create a wrapper class, and you've probably seen these before, right? How do I get access to the biggest integer that I can hold, right? What is the biggest value an integer can have? It's integer. You may have seen this class before. Dot max value, right? And that will print out, and that has a public final static value that holds this number in it, which is the biggest value for an int, which is like 2 billion and change. Okay, so what you might not have known is that there's also a double, a capital D double. There's also a character, and there's also a Boolean. Now, what are these? So, there are these things called wrapper classes in Java. That's what these are. And you may have used them as a utility, but they're actually way more interesting than that. Sometimes we really need to treat a primitive like an object. We really need the memory location, it to be passed around and treated like an object. In this case, we can use a wrapper class. Okay, integer I, or integer I. So this is a integer. It is an object, and it works exactly like an int. Now you may be thinking, oh my god, this is going to be frustrating. I'm going to have to do something like this, a new integer 4 or something. Now notice it crashed out. It says it's deprecated. It's unnecessary. And notice that there's multiple warnings. Unnecessary boxing. And the answer is no, actually. There's a feature called auto boxing and auto unboxing, which it works just like a string. You can say integer I is equal to 4. And what that does is that it basically takes this primitive and boxes it up into an object automatically for you. Okay? And then you can auto unbox as well. Right? Where you can take the value, where basically you can take an integer and unpack it into an int. Automatically. Right? So here, right, classes, you have to store values as objects. So we wrap primitives in the wrapper classes. And I believe it's tackles at the end of chapter 1. It just doesn't really make sense to bring up wrapper classes until this moment. So let me just grab the slides and see if I believe I saw them earlier. So or I thought I did. Okay. There we go. That didn't take too long. So wrapper classes, you use them to store a primitive value inside of an object. So you've got stuff like byte to hold byte primitives, capital D double to hold doubles, capital I integer. They're all subclasses of the number class. So that is pretty useful. And that was pretty much the only slide that they had on them. So that was super useful. But anyway, as a result, so wrapper classes, essentially, these are objects, and as a result, you can do some, you can look through them, and they have methods. You can they have methods. It has a toString method, so that's cool, because everything has a toString. Remember? And also, since these wrapper classes are classes, they also have tons of just static methods you can use, which are extremely useful. So, what wrapper classes are important? You've also got the double. It's equal to 5.0. Notice that basically this double wraps up. So double D is equal to 5.0. Is equal to 5.0. Double do is equal to D plus 1.0. Right? D is equal to do plus 1.0 more. Sout D. Right, so it just so you don't have to really do any translating on this. Java will automatically translate between a wrapper class and a primitive for you, which is kind of the big thing here. So what that means is at the end of the day, is that if we want to make a list of ints, instead we make a list of integers. So let's go ahead and go back to actually this example over here. And we'll go ahead and comment this one out now. And so to make a list of integers over here, we just say list integer. And now we can only add integers to it. So we could add 100, we can add 50, and it automatically takes these and converts these ints to integers. And it prevents us from adding hello over here. And also as a result, we no longer have to cast. We no longer have to do that casting anymore because we know we have only integers in here. All right, so now with that, we can finally get into the details of how we use array lists. All right, we'll go over you'll see generics more in your methods, but it's fairly easy to do. To just do generics, you use the less than sign. It's really two things you really remember. To use a generic, use the less than sign and greater than sign, and say this. This is a list of this generic type, so this is a list of integer. If I put double here, it would be a list of double. Although, good to note that if I do double over here, it's going to get mad at me. Why? Because these are ints, and it doesn't automatically translate int to capital D doubles. Okay? So you put the integer for int, capital D double for double if you want to store if you want to create a generic list of those type. So that's the first rule. So first rule, list of integer. That's how you read that. Second rule is that if you've got primitives, you instead use the wrapper class instead.